want that safety for Hope. They want him to be on something he doesn't have to think too much about, he doesn't have to worry about in any sort of crazy way. Taking that off the board really actually limits what AL wants to do, because if they can't get one of these safer bot sides, they do kind of have to go for a 2v2 dominant lane, which is not their comfort zone. With the Milio taken off the board going in to NIP as well, because they don't want to give over Lucian Milio, now you're looking at basically just like Corki Nami, or you've got a couple of games of Ash Seraphine, and you know, Seraphine's banned out on the other side, so bot lane already heavily pinched, and we get that first pick Annie on the other side to dissuade a lot of those shorter range AD carries or even mid laners stepping up. You know, NIP are throwing down the gauntlet a bit here.
Yeah. And Anyone's Legend are now kind of torn on what's our safest AD carry that we can go for, that we can leave Hope on an island with, while Kael goes to do many adventures with Tarzan on the other side of the map, tries to link up with Shanks and form that 3-man death core of trying to just create that mid-game advantage that Anyone's Legend has been able to use to so much success within these past 5 series. Jhin is the lock-in for AL, which to me doesn't necessarily say, yes, I am a safe laning ADC, but he can sit back in team fights, he can provide utility, and at the very least, Anyone's Legend might think, if we all just dive the enemy team, then no one is really attacking Hope.
Yeah. I think the thing here to note is that AL is actually the team that saved jungle mid for second rotation more than any other team in the entire league. They once again look like they're going to be picking top and bot lane here, saving those picks for Tarzan and Shanks a little bit later on into the draft, trying to get them better matchups despite seeing the information on the other side here. You have a very scary duo in Annie and Nocturne now that's available. Obviously, Jhin Rumble gives you a lot of security, it gives you a lot of stability, and you can kind of build your comp in multiple different ways around it, but NIP have made their point abundantly clear. They want to play aggressive, they want to play on that level 6 power spike, and they want to try and get picks. I imagine this next pick is going to kind of play into that idea as well, likely the answer into Rumble. It's just going to be a very safe topside in the Scion. You know, I wanted to see something more aggro, I want to see more dive coming in, but hey, maybe we'll be saving that for the bot side here.
NIP definitely toyed with our hearts a bit, going with a lot of very fun champions before just finally settling down on the Scion. Now, normally this Bard gets paired a lot with Hope's Ezreal because it makes the most sense in a little bit of laning power, but also being able to roam around. Well, they're going to try to extend the same formula just with the Jhin this time around, but this has been Kael's preferred support for Anyone's Legend in a lot of their first game of the series. But one of the things that did not get picked up right away that is the most banned currently against Anyone's Legend is that Pantheon. With Ryze being the first ban, I'm curious if NIP are going to try to take that away from Tarzan.
I mean, you kind of have to. Tarzan is so good on Pantheon, but there are plenty of other options for Tarzan that are still available. Bard's going to be moving around the map, which means you can afford to be a bit more aggressive with one of your picks. Nefiri, Skarner, both are still on the table as potential options here. I like the bans from AL. The Lulu is out and the Nautilus is out. That takes away a couple of combinations. There's really only one bot lane duo that is left for NIP that they have played at all throughout this year, and that's going to be the Corki Nami. Tristana would then be the next potential pick coming in here from someone like Assum, who has shown the ability to play some of these more aggressive laning phases. We've even seen things like Shen and Gragas out of Zhuo over the course of this split as well. So going to be interesting to see the bot lane priority from NIP, because that's really going to round out this comp, whether they want to go for more dive or not. Yone, the final ban as well for Ninjas in Pyjamas, which just goes to show that they don't want to try and set up for that Sejuani-Yone combo that could potentially be coming in from the other side. Tarzan, one of the best Sejuanis of all time, kind of limiting AL to either have to blind pick, I guess not blind pick, but pick their jungler and show their cards right now with what they want to do with Tarzan, or potentially just try and get a safer matchup for someone like Shanks in the mid lane, which looks like is going to be the case.
And Azir is flexible in which direction Anyone's Legend want to go. With the Rumble, you can either play for receiving the dive with your Equalizer or just following up on a dive attempt. And right now, Anyone's Legend, their jungle pick for Tarzan is going to determine how aggressive the Pandas are going to try to be. Now, I thought that with Lucian up, if they would consider something like a Lucian Nami, but they really want to save it with the Milio combo because it was the first ban in the second ban in the first phase, they're just saving it for later in the series. So like you called out, Corki Nami going to end up being the go-to bot lane into the answer of Jhin and Bard. So now, AL, you have little to no engage so far.
Yeah.
So Skarner makes the most sense in just being able to have a go button in any scenario where Anyone's Legend have to be the first ones to make a move.
Look, it's abundantly clear what AL want to do. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel. They're trying to play towards their comfort. It's worked for them very recently, and very often, very recently as well. I think it's very, very clear what both of these teams want to do. They have so much engaged. Both sides have plenty of ways to start fights, whether it be Nocturne Annie from Ninjas in Pyjamas, or of course now the Skarner, potentially an Azir shuffle. If Bard lands a Tempered Fate, you can start fights off of that as well. So plenty of different ways for both of these teams to play team fights. My biggest concern for NIP is, are they going to have enough damage in the later part of the game to be able to deal with an Azir and a Rumble and even a Skarner who's eventually going to be strong? Bard's going to have a lot of opportunities to roam. Corki and Nami are a strong 2v2, not quite strong enough to fully punish the Jhin if it's entirely weak side, and at that point you're just hoping and praying that your solo lanes can do well. It's a good situation for your solo lanes. The Sion and the Annie should be able to roam and be proactive with their matchups here, but it's going to have to be, you know, a proactive game from NIP, because I think eventually you're going to hit a point where the damage just starts to fall off.
Not only that, but also you just get effectively outranged as well. While yes, you have a front line that you can hide behind on this Sion for NIP, your effective damage dealers are all relatively short range, right? Like Annie, not only she is burst, but also she needs to get pretty close. Corki, same conundrum there. Whereas Azir can just have soldiers at max range poking you down. You can't get through the Equalizer. You can't get through Skarner. And then Jhin, if he wants to be a safe, he's just firing curtain call bullets all the way from downtown. So we'll see if NIP can beat the clock, spike on that huge mid-game timer, or if the Pandas will be able to endure the storm and scale on to a Game 1 win.
We are excited. The crowd is pumped. I am pumped, Raafaa. I am very excited for this series. I think both of these teams are, you know, kind of playing with a bit of a chip on their shoulder. You talked about NIP wanting to rebound, of course, from their loss streak, but AL still have a lot to prove. This was a team that had their own sets of problems throughout the regular season. They're still trying to showcase that they are consistent enough to be considered a true international threat to come out of the LPL. They have a good draft here, but a couple of things to watch out for in terms of the pathing. Both junglers starting on top side could mean some action decently early if either of them feel a little bit frisky on the bottom side.
I like that point you bring up, Kman, because Anyone's Legend was a team that was kind of considered our top two, or one of our two best teams in LPL, not only for the past couple of splits, but also going into the beginning of 2026. This is a roster. I saw this earlier on Twitter. This roster now has by far the most games recorded as the same 5-man roster since its creation. So from 2025 to 2026, there's no other LPL team in history that has been able to, I think it's like 206 now. This would now be 207 games played together. And that just goes to show how much trust that this roster has in each other as 5 individuals, that this is the best iteration they can get, as this all-in trading is starting to pay off in dividends for Hope and Kael. The flash forward on both of them, just not enough damage to take out Assum. Zhuo is not needing to burn the flash either, but that is multiple summoner spells gone in this early 2v2.
Yeah, that's really, really scary, because one of the big things that you need to rely on when it comes to the Corki Nami lane is being able to get that shove into Jhin so that it's harder for the Bard to be able to move around the map and make all these creative plays. You want to try and punish that aggression, and with all of these summoners now burned on the bot side, it's going to be even harder to do that. Hope basically gets a free reset here to kind of put himself back into a good spot. The wave is going to be in a good spot for him as well, so it's a really nice trade for Anyone's Legend, and once again just pushes towards their own win condition of trying to get their support out on the map.
Tarzan, already level 4, looking to intercept Kael, immediately burns the flash out of Annie. I'm a big fan of anyone just respecting the Skarner gank, because there's been so many times in the past, Kman, where someone sees a Skarner running at them at not super fast speeds, but pretty relatively fast, and they're like, I can beat this. I can flash over it. Just flash it, bro. And Kael does exactly that.
Sometimes you just have to bite the bullet. The summoner sucks to lose, especially for something like Annie, because you would love to have that flash up when you hit that level 6 to try and make a play happen, but I think you'll take your life instead, as Tarzan trying to invade now with Kael kind of stuck onto the tower. We have a teleport coming into the mid lane here as well. This is what Kael does. He just changes the game.
And it all comes from the fact that Hope and Kael are actually able to win that 2v2 all-in push. Kael gets the first roam. However, Zhuo is matching that roam and forcing Tarzan to flash away from the bubble. Guwon wants to change it. Flandre has first push. He can try moving to the river, but he might not be able to save his jungle in time as Guwon flashes forward just to make sure he can take down the Scorpion. Shanks flashes forward just to make sure that he can also get a trade guaranteed. But now Hoya has joined the fray. He wants to get in on the party. He finds a smash onto Shanks, who had no flash from the skirmish. It's an all-out brawl here in the top side river. Flandre trying to burn him down with the flame spinner, hits him with the electro harpoon, but he doesn't want to use flash to tase him because he just does not have enough damage in the tank. Flandre will at least try to make sure Hoya cannot get back to lane, but already NIP are able to get nice counter punches in this early game.
It's a huge punish from Ninjas in Pyjamas. They desperately needed to try to make something happen there. We get a replay here. Tarzan and Kael, they've linked up plenty of times around these exact Raptors to try to take advantage of a lot of these teams that are slow on the push, but Kael has teleport back up. He comes back in as the Annie, and at this point, Tarzan's got to realize he has overstayed his welcome. Despite the portal to get out, Kael is not there to be able to stun up with a Q after Guwon goes through the portal alongside him. The flash just secures the kill there to be able to heal Guwon back up, try to keep him alive for as long as possible. He does trade his life, but with Hoya making his way down as well, you're looking at a situation where Shanks is completely out of position, and the shield here from the Scion is massive. The fact that Hoya survives this does change a lot of the equation because the kill goes to Kael when you do punish that 2-for-1. Meanwhile, on the other side, now Scion and Nocturne are both accelerated, and IP are going to feel really good about that play.
Just looking back, Flandre had the flash opportunity. Not sure if it was going to be a under damage calculation and that's why he didn't go for it, or if he felt that the flash is just more important to have in lane to survive any setup from Hoya's Scion and Guwon's Nocturne ganking him once he gets access to Paranoia. I'll have to see if that pays off for the top laner for the Pandas, as Dragon is spawned already 5 minutes into the game, 2 minutes away from Grubs hitting the Rift as well. As Flandre, do we use flash here? Okay, no, he holds on to it and just throws on the equalizer. Giga Chad.
He'll take the wave. I think he'll feel pretty comfortable with that. Dragon up on the map, Shanks with full tempo and pressure, the first level 6 because he got to roam a lot later on that play than Kael did. So he is going to be a little bit ahead as the Annie is about to hit level 6 very shortly, but Tarzan also having that ultimate available could cause for some chaos in the mid lane. Nocturne in the pit. Not quite level 6 just yet. Only one more camp from Guwon to make that happen. That means no Paranoia on the table to try and punish this bot lane either. We thought the action was going to be saved for level 6. It has certainly been a little bit earlier than that. Guwon may be trying to leech some XP to hit that level 6 power spike.
He's so close. He needs like 2 minions dying. He's not able to hit it. Thankfully for him, he does have the 20 stacks on his jungle pet already hit. So he has the 1k smite in case Tarzan comes sneaking around. They clear out the Tribush ward so that Tarzan can get in unseen, finally revealed by Zhuo walking up, and that forces Guwon off the dragon and wastes a little bit of his time.
This is such an important timer, though, for Guwon, who is just very far behind in terms of the tempo. I think that's a really great example of Shanks really realizing, hey, Guwon is not level 6 yet, I can continue to push in, and Azir is pretty punishable in that spot if you have the Paranoia, but Paranoia available, and so overall the game state is just going to equalize out a bit. Notable that Grubs will be up in 30 seconds, which I think is going to be a pretty big priority for both of these teams. I think Dragon is an objective that I maybe would personally prioritize a bit more, but both of these squads are looking for ways to get their ultimates off in these fights, especially with top lane ultimates coming back up. We could definitely see more pressure on that top side objective.
I think you're absolutely right, though, Kman, because we have to remember, NIP is a composition that does not necessarily fare well against AL if the game goes super, super late. 3-game item, 3-item kind of plus territory, right? So NIP really wanted to take that dragon. And Tarzan, in a lot of scenarios, when the enemy team goes for an early dragon, you just go into the top quadrant, you take their camps, you go up in XP levels, and you make that trade, and you set yourself up for Grubs, right? But Skarner, for Tarzan, makes the choice, no, we're going to stop them on this dragon. We're not going to give it to him for free. We know that he's not level 6 yet. We can fight him here. We can waste his time. And now that gives him priority to hit the Grubs anyway, while NIP are not in a position to look for dragon off the rip either. So this is such a... At first, it was a confusing decision, but now that as I see it play out, it's like, wow, that was actually really intelligent by AL to just do that, even if you could have argued for Tarzan been aiming to steal a little bit more camps for Guwon, which he is no stranger to doing in prior games.
Yes. Flandra's gonna take a trade with Hoya. I think Hoya should be fine here on the Scion. I don't think there's really any way to kill him. One of the things I really want to mention that makes that play work, look at the vision coverage on the map. It's a little bit less now because we had so many wards on the top side, but that is the effect that Kael has on the Bard, is the reason that Tarzan felt so comfortable to go for that play is because he was constantly tracking Guwon throughout the entire exchange, and Guwon doesn't feel comfortable walking up to the Dragon because they also have full control over bottom river. So it's just a really, really big plus for AL. It continues to show that the little things that this team does well, like vision control, like being able to set up around objectives, they just do it better than a lot of these other teams in the LPL, and it gets them 3 free grubs.
Yeah, I would have to go back in some of the LPL games and look at jungler inventories and see if this many pinks are being bought by both Tarzan and Guwon, but this is the most amount of pinks that I have seen bought in an early game so far, just to be able to control the space around these objectives as Guwon tries to go in and take out some of this vision control. Tarzan, nice hover on mid lane just to protect Shanks. Potential brawl here. He pushes Guwon into the wall. The Impale, he already procced the spell shield. Apparently, Guwon didn't be able to get to use it until now. He uses the Paranoia to make everything dark, but the curtain call bullets were still flying and forced Zhuo to flash there. Assum is just going to sail right into Tarzan. Uh-oh. Well, Tarzan lost all of his friends as they were forced to bail there, and now Hoya just comes in with the unstoppable onslaught, knocks him in, and Assum is able to follow up with a nice auto attack there. And just like that, things looked good for AL, Kman, but it's NIP that take control.
What an incredible punish from Ninjas in Pyjamas. They're just so calculated in how they approach that fight. They recognize that once Tarzan blows a lot of his engage tools, once the knockback into the wall comes and the Impale comes out from Tarzan, you don't really have a lot of follow-up. Kael actually, very importantly, misses a Q here, and that means that Jin can't stun Guwon one more time. If he did, the Nocturne is dead, and this fight doesn't happen, but the flash from Zhuo gets him out of curtain call range, and at this point, Assum's making his way up. The teleport is coming through as well. AL have to full disengage, basically sacrifice Tarzan, and Kael, with no ultimate, sticks around way too long, just gets raw ulted by Hoya as well, and that's a massive punish from NIP. It looked so bad in terms of the setup, but being cool, calm, and collected has gotten them here in terms of being competitive in Group Ascend, and got him a pretty big teamfight win there.
Super crucial to NIP's game to get these small wins, to slowly get to their mid-game spike as fast as possible. Less than 1,000 gold is not anything to write home about, but these are all small steps in part of the process, and obviously anyone's legend is no easy team to be able to get this done at, especially in their current form. First dragon acquired. Another dragon will not be available for another 4 minutes. We got Rift Herald spawning in 3 minutes. And right now, Kman, first items have only been really built by both junglers here, but should be starting to come online for a majority of our other players here.
It's very, very hard to imagine a world where NIP are going to feel stronger than they do right now. And I know that gold difference isn't all that big for NIP, but this is exactly the time of the game where their comp comes online, where you can start finding those picks and spiking with Nocturne and Annie, and even with Corki, who is going to start hurting once that first item is completed. You need to make sure you get that vision control under wraps if you are AL. They did a great job of it in the early game, but making sure that you're tracking Guwon as much as possible can limit a lot of the plays that they're making, and I think the goal for AL at this point, with no objectives up on the map currently, is just to try to stall out as much as they can and just farm up to get to those later item spikes around second or third.
Sure. Trinity Force finally finished for Assum. Still 3 minutes before the next big dragon comes online, 2 minutes before Rift Herald. With this Hex Plate, Guwon will have access to Paranoia a lot more consistently. Next big spike would probably just be waiting on Kael's Malignance coming through, as Hoya does force the flash out of Flandre. That can set things up for NIP to follow up on this Rumble if he stays under the turret by himself. But because of that pressure, Tarzan and Kael are already forced to start grouping on the top side just to make sure Flandre does not get dove.
Yeah, I think Flandre's pretty lucky that Guwon decided to go farm Raptors instead, even with the small minion wave. They likely could have killed him under tower there if they full committed, but with his teammates now protecting him, should be just fine. Is going to be able to make his way out there. Tarzan gonna posture pretty aggressively around this area, but you called it out. I mean, there is no objective on the map right now. We're basically just fighting over positioning. The AD carry for Hope kind of making his way up to the mid lane to be able to rotate a bit easier if a fight does break out, but this is what AL needs to do. They need to continue to try and group together to make sure that these plays from NIP are not as successful. I like what NIP are looking for, what Ninjas in Pyjamas are trying to find at the moment, but they need to be a bit more decisive in terms of when they pull the trigger. That could have been a good opportunity for them.
I think the next big decisive thing I want to see them really conclude on is whether they want to try and fish for any summoner spells or ultimates ahead of Dragon, or use them for Rift Herald and potentially sacrifice your agency to then go for Dragon after Rift Herald.
I think it's interesting because Rift Herald certainly has more value to AL than it does to NIP in this one, not just because of the way that their lanes are set up, but because, quite frankly, as long as Kael is, doing something, or Kael is doing something, then you can kind of completely neutralize the Rift Herald with the gold value. But speaking of...
Oh, Shanks gets outplayed on the tower! He tried to just dive Annie full frontal face, and NIP, it's a big punish.
What? Huh? What's the thought process there from Shanks? Someone who has been so consistent. It's a completely pointless dive that gets punished so hard, and now NIP are gonna look for more.
I'm just really flabbergasted. I'm assuming Shanks thought that maybe he was able to pull the combo fast enough onto Kael that he wouldn't have been able to react, but I don't know. I would have to look at a replay to see how many stacks Kael had before his fourth one for the stun. But this means that Kael will be here before Shanks gets here. Hoya also with the TP gives them the priority necessary to have full control of this Rift Herald. It's 5 seconds before the Ocean Dragon, but they didn't really spend any big ultimates there, so they have all the tools necessary to fight that objective as well if they want to.
Yeah, Kael had to use Flash. I guess that's something, but still, overall, it's a really good play for NIP, who make their way immediately towards this Dragon. They already got the first one. This will be their second Drake of the game. If they do just want to start it up here, would be a bit aggressive, but I certainly would go for it. We're going to get a replay of exactly what happened. It's just the level 11 spike that Shanks feels he can take advantage of. Kael uses the stun on the wave to, thin it there, but Kael hits level 11, and at this point, he's had plenty of time to start charging it back up.
Bro.
And he's just able to get the stun, drop Tivers, and it's a completely pointless dive from Shanks. A massive mistake. I will say it only gets punished with the Rift Herald, which generally makes it a little bit better. Azir and Bard, like I said, can both stop that, but the question now is, have you given too much gold over to priority targets, and, what do you want to do now that Dragon is off the map as well?
Yeah. I'm still in shock, but you know what? You have to
I'm
live
with you, man.
with the actions
I don't get it.
You have to live with the consequences of your actions now, Shanks. As like you said, Rift Herald was really so far the only kind of potential punish, as the Dragon seemed already was going to be somewhat favored for NIP. Tarzan used Impale on Hoya and got his flash. Is that what I saw?
Yeah, I mean, that is what we saw.
Okay.
You got Scion Flash. That's something. I mean, there's really no threat of ever being able to kill Scion in that instance, but I hate to say that AL kind of look like they're just kind of praying they get anything on the map right now, but these are some very, very optimistic plays, I think is the word I'll use, that they're trying to look for at the moment, and they're just not necessarily going their way. They will get some free gold as the wave here crashes on the top side, and again, not really under a ton of threat right now, but NIP definitely hold the cards on where these engages go.
I almost wonder if AL just didn't expect the 2 early skirmishes they forced against NIP to go so sour. Because they started off looking really good, and then they just overstayed a little too long. And then the punish was so great from NIP, and I don't know if that was just AL underestimating how quickly NIP would be able to collapse there. Obviously, Kael had the first roam because they pushed in Assum and Zhuo. They forced summoner spells out. You have every right to make the first half of that play that we saw on that invade on the top side, but yeah, it almost seems like AL are just confused, like, wow, okay, that went terribly. Well, what do we go from here? How do we progress the game? And we have to state that, once again, this is not a bad state for anyone's legend to be in. They're only down Definitely 500 gold. But this is the time of the game where NIP can easily force a winning fight with their more favored spikes. And if they pull that off without anyone's legend having a meaningful response, the game could be very hard to recover from at that period.
Absolutely. It's more so just the foreboding bad plays that they're making, where it's like, you can make those now, but just don't make them later, because that's when they really count.
Yes.
One of the things that I think is really important, as we get a couple of teleports down onto the bottom side, to point out here, still a 500 gold lead for Shanks. Think of the gold lead he would have if that top lane play didn't happen. He has been in a really good spot in terms of his side laning and his ability to catch those minion waves. This Azir is crucial towards this comp's ability to win in the late game. It's all well and good for Skarner and Bard to find a lot of these plays to make. The Azir and the Rumble in particular, the two solo laners for anyone's legend, are going to be crucial towards whether or not they can actually win in these close quarter skirmishes that are almost certainly going to happen around these dragons that are being stacked. It's a Cloud Soul as well this game, so definitely something that NIP are going to look for, and AL need to make sure that they're as strong as possible when those fights occur.
20 seconds away from Baron. Guwon playing to Kael's side of the map, using the Herald to break open this tier 1 turret. Thought that they would try and use it to break open mid-tier 1, but this at least gives them guaranteed access into this topside quadrant, which I don't know if they could rush Baron with their damage profile, but at least they have the inside track to threaten and pull AL over to then look for returns, which I could be down for if you're just trying to use that objective to force the Pandas to face check you.
I think the reason that that gets used onto the top side is mostly because you're really scared of the Bard just being able to Tempered Fate the mid lane tower, and so you're surprising everybody by essentially dropping it top, making that rotation happen, and getting that tower for free. It's a good use of the Herald, and basically guarantees that it's going to go off, and I don't think you're always guaranteed that that's going to happen against the comp that AL have. So well played by NIP to get gold somewhere, and the gold's in the right spot. I mean, you have basically 1,000 gold lead on this Nocturne. You dive onto the backline, if you get Azir or if you get Jhin in these fights, things become a lot more difficult. So Guwon definitely been a bit of a captain in terms of the engages for NIP. He'll have to be a bit of a leader in terms of the damage in this game as well. Yeah.
And while Tarzan, we kind of associate for being one of our best carry jungle players in the LPL. Good spell shield from Guwon. Did come at the cost of a flash for Kael to be able to escape that Tempered Fate setup. But Tarzan is on full utility duty this game, Kman. Not only the Protoplasm for the most efficient tank items, hang on. Mid lane dive, Flandre's in a world of trouble. He flashes away, throws down the equalizer. Guwon is forced to flash, but Assum can take the last turret shot for his Nocturne to make sure that he doesn't go down swinging. There's a turret on the bot side that got sieged by AL, but they lose the tier 1 turret as a cost, as well as their top laner. They're trying to force this Dragon Wall down numbers. I don't know if this is a good call for AL.
There's no jungler here, though. They're looking for the fight.
Oh, Kael just gets blown up by Hoya and Assum. They're going to try and turn on the Shanks. Tarzan does burn down the dragon, knowing that Guwon is not there to be able to use the smite, but they lose 2 more members. Do you just flip for the Baron? Do you force him to check you?
You have to try here. The pings are coming down. There's nobody that can contest this. It's Skarner and Jhin alive for anyone's legend. This would be a nearly impossible fight, and you have a Corki. You can definitely try and threaten it. They're going to make the call.
Flandre, remember, he used his TP to the mid lane tier 1 that then got him killed when he got dove by the rest of NIP. Tarzan has to be a hero and try to somehow steal this away from NIP. Hope will unleash the curtain call. Kael gets there in time alongside Flandre. There's no equalizer available. It's 5,000 HP. NIP are going to go for the 50-50. Tarzan goes in with the install impact, but he's pushed away. Hoya keeps him at the door. Paranoia to block the steal, and it is secured by Guwon, and Tarzan is the first one to flash. The Pandas are trying to look for any scraps, any way that they can avenge their fallen jungler, but it's just not possible. Hoya stands tall as the frontline meat shield for the ninjas in Pyjamas to escape, and they make their grand getaway.
I can't believe it, Raafaa. They're just outplaying them. They are pulling them apart across this entire map right now. Ninjas in Pyjamas look fantastic in this exchange. We're going to get a replay of basically everything that happens here. Flandre teleports in the mid lane to be closer to this potential dragon fight, but NIP say, who cares about the dragon? We can get your life. They pull the trigger and they juggle tower aggro as perfectly as they can. The fact that Guwon survives here is so important because he gets to back. He gets to move his way back out onto the map, and even though he's not here to, fight for this dragon. You can give up the objective if you're going to get 2 free kills on the end of it. Hoya with a fantastic CC chain onto Kael, and Shanks is just completely out of position here behind enemy lines. It's a free kill, a free Baron, a fantastic game state, and a 5k gold lead for a team that desperately needed it.
And that gold advantage, we alluded to it exploding out of nowhere just like that. Remember, this NIP roster was like 500, 700 gold for a majority of the game, and all it took was just one damn good sequence to occur. And unfortunately for the Pandas, they kind of played into their hands.
Completely. I mean, they actually just played entirely into the thing that NIP needed the most in order to win this game. You cannot be making these small micro mistakes. It just feels like AL are not really thinking about a lot of the plays they're making before they happen. A lot of undisciplined, uncharacteristic decisions from anyone's Legend in this one. They're gonna have to try and be a little bit more disciplined in these fights. This game has become very, very difficult for them. Nocturne is going to be a massive problem shutting off the lights, and I think if you were worried already about Nocturne damage, look on the bot side. Assum, a player we highlighted as an all-pro caliber AD carry this split. 1.5k gold lead. This Corki is very online. He's going to shred through the very limited front line that AL already have, and it makes these close quarters fights that are going to happen around Dragon in under 2 minutes even more scary if we even get to that point with the push that's going on right now.
It is definitely very crazy to consider how well Assum has bounced back ever since the 2v2 that seemed so favored for Hope and Kael, pushing Assum to burn both of his summoner spells to be taking an early back, and it gave priority over to AL's bot lane to make first moves on the map. But everything that we have seen, NIP were able to punish harder against the Pandas, and it has left them in a state of panic where a lot of these responses have been more so out of, guys, we have to do something, rather than, okay, guys, let's calm down. Let's try and think through and make sure that we have all of our pieces set up, since NIP are the ones constantly putting pressure down. Now, this Baron buff is about to expire soon, so NIP no longer have that push on their side, but they're able to get a decent chunk of change for their troubles here, able to at least put some damage down on that mid-tier turret in the second-tier turret, I should say, in the mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, at bare minimum, you got the fight from the gold, or the gold from the fight, I should say. So you do still have a very positive Baron power play there, as we have a 5k gold lead. Now the question is, setting up around this dragon in just over 30 seconds here, are you going to full commit to this? And if you're AL, do you even want to try to contest it? It's Soul Point. Looks like they might want to try and make a play onto Hoya on the top side instead, but he's going to pull so much time here if he does get engaged upon.
Mans does have a 377 gold bounty on top of his head, but might be a little too tanky for the Panda's troubles here. As you called it, 15 seconds before that next dragon. If NIP secure it, they will be at Soul Point, and there'll be a Cloud Soul on the table 5 minutes after that. Right now, NIP are doing their due diligence to maintain control of mid-wave. Teleport is coming in from Shanks. They want to get this gold bounty, or at least force Hoya off the tier 2 turret to get some guaranteed gold. And NIP are saying, cool, we're going to push into your base.
This is an insane call. I guess it is kind of working out. They're giving over the dragon, which we kind of proposed that they could do here, but it forces Flandre to ult the wave, and NIP are shoved off of it. I thought it was going to be an inhib tower for a tier 2 exchange. Overall, it's actually perfectly fine for AL, at least in terms of the gold. Still a gold positive play for NIP, but it theoretically could have been worse. A very greedy and aggressive call, but now you no longer have teleport on your Azir. That forces Flandre to be the one to catch a lot of these waves on the side, because these objectives are coming up. 1 minute on Baron, and look at the items in the inventory of ninjas in Pyjamas. Lord Dom's completed for Assum is going to let him shred through Tarzan on the front line, and specifically you have that stopwatch for Care, you have that Seekers completed, so with those 9 stacks of the Dark Seal, you can go in, use that flash that's available, drop the Tibbers, drop the stun, and keep yourself alive. This is a very dangerous Ninjas in Pyjamas team right now, and can really capitalize on any mistake that AL makes.
Yeah. The champions that could have easily been punished by anyone's Legend in the early game, they never got a chance to revisit when their flashes were down. And that has come at a great cost to the Pandas now that these champions have been able to scale on up, get some gold into their pockets, and not just that, but also items that allow them an extra layer of defensive utility. Seekers and the Proto Belt, as you called out, not only can double offensively, but also as ways to bait AL in. And with NIP continuing to control this top side of the jungle, the Pandas have limited options of what they can do, as a Baron has spawned yet again on Summoner's Rift.
Yeah, they're dancing. Azir's coming back from base with no TP. If NIP take a fight now, they're winning.
Flash from Hoya just to get the knockup guaranteed onto Tarzan. He is the target and no one can save him. Annie comes flying in to zone off the remaining members of anyone's Legend to make sure that their jungler was not aided out. And at the very least, Tarzan does manage to survive and escape, but Flandre had to pay the price for it, and NIP will look to rip the Baron again.
I mean, there is the direct consequence of the mistake you made on the top side teleporting in. Shanks had to back because he was in so much danger in the mid lane and had no health, and so when he gets back out on the map, he's just way too slow. At this point, it's a consolation prize to take this mid lane tier 1. They lose the Baron. They once again are able to, basically get gold onto whatever priority target they want. As we see in this replay, it's just the decisiveness from NIP. It's the most obvious engage in the world, and yet Tarzan is overextended on the Skarner. It's a good ult from Kael to try and buy as much time as possible, but Flandre, unfortunately, is the next target. The Annie stun comes down, and the fight is as simple as it could possibly be. At this point, NIP have all the tools in the entire game. AL have to hope for a massive mistake, because they only have 1 kill in this entire game.
Yeah. By the way, that was insanely slick by Guwon to draw all that pressure towards himself on Tarzan, where a couple of his teammates were trying to bail him out, and then he just, right before the impale goes off, he just slides over to Flandre, who was stunned up by Kael's Annie combo, gets out of harm's reach, ensures that there's no 1-for-1 trade. It's just a guaranteed pick off onto 1. Baron Nashor once again on NIP's side as they try to siege through top. Guwon solo pushing in the mid lane, since he can always join quickly with the power of that paranoia.
That's the thing. They're going to try to make the play onto Guwon, but should be able to just get out of here as he sidesteps to the Jhin.
Doesn't need to use the flash just yet. Fear tether is broken by Tarzan, but there's 2 members committed just to hunt down Guwon while he still has flash and a GA. He's like, cool, you got my flash. Look what is happening to your base. NIP are now pushing into the inhibitor turret on the top side. Should be able to knock it out, and that puts them 1 step closer to a game 1 victory.
AL are falling apart in terms of their decision making. It's a free inhibitor here for NIP. They're looking, I mean, they want to try and fight here.
Temper Fate barely goes wide as it was in the middle of everyone. The rest of the ninjas in pajamas were able to space that one out beautifully, and we are 55 seconds away from Cloud Soul being possible for NIP.
It's just been a masterclass from Ninjas in Pajamas. We hyped up AL's mid-games and their decision-making so much. It's been NIP in this game that has looked so cool, calm, collected, comfortable on the map. It's really been impressive. At no point have they ever felt like they are out of control of where this game is at. You pointed it out, Cloud Soul is going to be up in 30 seconds, and if those item spikes were scary before, they are certainly scary now. You didn't even burn the Guardian Angel on Guwon, so he can play really aggro around this pit.
And the rest of NIP are just stepping up in this red quadrant, trying to force some aggressive vision down, making the Pandas even more uncomfortable with how they want to approach the Dragon Pit. And I like that NIP are taking the extra step. Push this Baron Empower minion wave as close to the base as possible to kind of cut off AL's alternative approaches and their ways to get into the pit. They're all circling around in this jungle quadrant, but it can be very dangerous in these choke points, especially against NIP's composition. They're able to work their way back into the dragon by the river, and AL have carved out a path through the bottom side of the map here.
I mean, Flandre's not here. He has to catch the supers in base, so this is a 4v5 fight.
Tarzan tries to go into the pit. They turn immediately onto the Skarner. Tempered Fate blocks out the front line, but he is bursted down anyway, and Flandre TP's in a little too late. Could not join the party in time, and the rest of anyone's Legend are now trying to make the retreat before the rest of NIP try to run them down. Hoya cuts off 1 retreat path, immediately blows up Shanks alongside the rest of the ninjas who are flashing forward to make sure that AL cannot retreat to their base. Super minions are trying to pour into the Nexus towers. They have Kael TPing in to cut them off, and he wants to end the game right here, right now. The Ninjas in Pajamas completely dominant against the Pandas, outplaying them at every turn and every corner, and the game 1 victory belongs to them.
Ninjas in Pyjamas look fantastic in game number 1. Their micro, their macro, everything was going their way in this one, and they are going to cruise to a game 1 victory over a team that has been white hot as of late. It's just everything you could want to see out of NIP. The perfect game number 1. You draft a team that has all the tools to be able to choose when those fights happen in the early game, and they don't rest on their laurels. They watch AL make mistake after mistake, and they punish them over and over again.
To be able to do it in front of the home crowd here in Shenzhen, oh.
Yeah.
Stadium buff, man. Something, home crowd buff definitely hits hard for NIP here. And remember, guys, this is an NIP roster that is on a 3-series lose streak right now. 5th seed currently in Group Ascend. Obviously, this team has had some insane highs already in this Split 2 regular season, such as taking a full series off of BLG, and even still a game victory over BLG in their prior encounter with them. Whereas Anyone's Legend are currently 5 on a 5-series win streak right now, which is where they went from essentially being 2-3 to now 7-3. But if this is the form that we get from the rest of the series, well, first of all, I hope it's not the rest of the series, because it'd be quite disappointing for Anyone's Legend, who seemingly figured out a lot of their early split woes, just to fall back to some bad habits here.
Yeah, I'm frustrated by AL and the way that they played, but I'll be the first to throw my hands up to be like, I am so sorry. Even in a lot of what we were talking about before the series started, I was like, AL on this hot streak and NIP on this loss streak, like it's not going to go well. This is going to be a series where AL have, full control. We just keep underestimating NIP, and if there's anything that we've learned, it's that every time you start to doubt this team, they end up coming back in full force. And really, to me, what this was is, when we think back to what we were really excited about for Anyone's Legend coming into this game and what they had been a lot better at, it was making a lot of these plays around the map. All of their decisions in this series were weird and strange and confusing, and it really hurt them in game number 1. They're going to have to try and make that a little bit better in game number 2, because look at the champions that are now off the board as well. I mean, Skarner was Tarzan's most played champion. Shanks had Azir, most played champion. Kael had Bard, most played champion. Flandre had Rumble, and Sion was also taken, his most played champions. Like, this was supposed to be the easy one in terms of the draft for them.
There's 2 theories, Kman. We're going to start with the more serious one. And one is kind of more of an apologist approach to what happened to AL. And I kind of alluded to this earlier in the game. Those first 2 big decisions that AL had, where they could have gotten a major lead for themselves, the invade onto Raptor Camp and then the play onto Guwon in the bot side river, whether it was an execution error in being able to finish off the play, or just not recognizing when they needed to back off and not continue the sequence, might have been just the difference there. Because I agree with the concept of what they were going for. Raptor Invade obviously was super strong, and you have first move from Kael, but just they end up losing a lot more than expected, right?
They overstayed. Yeah.
They overstayed. Because then all the decisions after seemed much more confusing and much more out of desperation, such as Shanks solo diving Care just because we're losing on the map, I need to get an advantage, and then just, complete disrespect of Annie stun. The second theory, they banned Ezreal in game 1. NIP did their homework. They denied Hope the safe laning ADC, but that one might be more memey, because they technically still got the 2v2 push early.
Right.
So what happened?
They got
to
the safe
this point
ADC.
in the flowchart. Yeah,
right. They're like, well, we don't get Ezreal. Maybe we have to go to the Jhin. People are gonna look at the Jhin damage numbers and be like, oh no, Jhin was terrible this game. And I get it. Jhin, I think, ended close to 0-0-0. I know he was 0-0-0 for most of that game, but whatever the case, they won 2v2. Kael started moving around the map. Jhin played full weak side, got 0 resources the rest of the game, and the entire top side fell apart. Like that to me is that's an issue, right? Like that's something that you can't really do. This teleport from Flandre that we're seeing on the screen now, I think this is the game-breaking play. I think that is the trigger pull from NIP that breaks everything open, because it allows them to, even if they have to give up this dragon, be able to pick up 2 more kills, get this giant gold lead, and get that first Baron. At that point, you have secured full control of the game. And again, something I really want to talk about when it comes to this comp, I like AL's draft in isolation, but NIP have more tools in this specific part of the game to win. If you hit the later part of the game and Tarzan can engage, you're going to have more damage than NIP at the end of the game. Don't let them get there. Keep your foot on the gas. NIP are not stupid. They are a smart team that understands their own win conditions that they draft for, and they just executed it way better than AL in their desperation plays in this one.
Yeah, we talked about the significant range advantage that AL would have once you got past 3 items, at least on your carries. And we knew that NIP were kind of on a clock. White Rabbit with the stopwatch on his hand, literally just looking at that mid game going, you guys are only at 500 gold ahead. Tick, 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 tick. You better find something. And not only the pick on the Flandre goes so surprisingly well, but it's also then anyone's legend panicking and going, okay, guys, well, they just used a bunch of tools. We have to rip this dragon. We have to deny third dragon away from them. And NIP are like, we still have 5 versus 4. And they were just not set up to fight that either. It was just kind of like, I wouldn't be surprised if Tarzan is just like, guys, just don't let them get into the pit. Don't let Guwon get into the pit. I'll just take this and we'll play it out for there. It's like, okay, well, what's the exit strategy? What are the consequences after? And and whoa, Hoya with player of the game.
That's an intriguing pick. Not the one I personally would have gone for, but
I want to see how many votes. Because Kman,
if we're seeing 8 for 8, I am gonna start. I'm gonna start some theories. That's all I'm gonna say.
I'm like more with. I can understand if they took Nox against Zhuo and Assum just because of the early 2v2 that they lost, but Assum was deathless in his quirky game. Probably put out a ton of damage.
Oh, very split.
Wow, so no love for bot lane whatsoever, but they did at least put some towards Guwon and one for Kael.
Yeah, Kael getting a vote as well. Guwon would have been my choice, personally. I think the Nocturne was massive that game. I think he completely controlled the whole map, but I don't know, man. Top lane seems to be getting a lot of love tonight, so might as well keep the train rolling.
I wonder if, because Flandre underperformed, they're like, well, Flandre must have underperformed because of Hoya's aura. That's the explanation I'm rolling with. Yes. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, it's going to be game 2 between anyone's legend